Hello and welcome to the Terrace Scottish Football Podcast. I am your host, Tony Anderson, and I'm joined by a babyface whose look shouldn't mean you underestimate him as he takes you down in the courtroom. Lawyer, father, pintsman, and above all, good Rangers man. It's Euan Taylor. Euan, how are you?
I'm very well, Tony. I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, all things considered.
How's the ankle?
It's got much better. I was at Motherwell away yesterday.
Yeah.
So I was marching about, standing for the whole game. So things are really looking up on that front. I went swimming again, which is out. So I'm moving pretty free. It's just all it is now is slightly uncomfortable, and I just need to be careful, and that's all.
Sure. Did you feel comfortable going to Fir Park because you knew the Gogsy would be there to come to your aid again if it happened?
I did see him when I was sitting at the table, but he didn't notice me. And I didn't want to annoy him. He obviously he's having an off day. He didn't want it to. I don't want to put him off that. Even though there was a fight in the bar I was in, so maybe Gogsy could have helped out in that if anyone was flattened out. But that was quite the start.
Indeed. But,
Steelworks. I mean, that just stops people from allowing obviously the away fans and that to sit around in the same pub. So it's pretty annoying, ultimately.
Yeah.
But I'll talk about it later. Maybe go into a bit of detail.
Indeed. We can get into that.
But let us start with this bloody title race, which took another twist. As Celtic once again, after a great result against Motherwell, being unable to follow it up as they fell to a 2-0 defeat at Tannadice. Second half goals from Will Ferry and Emmanuel Aguiyi gave Jim Goodwin a real tonic as they bounced back from last week's calamity-ending at Dens. Euan, how much did you enjoy this for a start?
Oh, I really enjoyed it. I kind of knew I was going to enjoy it within the first 30 seconds, seeing the state. Obviously the pitch you could see it before the game, but when you saw how the ball was rolling with it, just the first couple of passes, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be good, because you could tell how it is. It's not even a leveler. It's Dundee United are just better at playing on it, and have some players that kind of suit playing on it. But yeah, it was. I couldn't decide if I was enjoying the first half as it went on, because I was like, this is one of the worst games of football I've seen in some time, I was thinking. But the second half wasn't. The second half was actually was quite entertaining. Dundee United, I thought, were well worthy winners, and yeah, just it didn't have that inevitable Celtic are going to score with 20 minutes to go, then they're going to score with 5 minutes to go, then they're going to score in the very last kick. It just didn't feel like that at any point. It was, I think, the most pathetic performance of Celtic season, which is saying quite something. Given how bad they've been, and it was great.
Well, we'll start with Celtic there, as you were going into there, and I mean, it's absolutely the most sort of listless they've been under Martin O'Neill specifically. I mean, they just had no imagination. You can use the pitch as an excuse as much as you like, but the way that the style that they went for with that pitch was lunacy, really.
Yeah. But I think we had an exchange before the game about Iheanacho, where you were saying that you thought, I think that could be a real boost for Celtic, and I was like, well, he's crap as well compared to other strikers. And I think we're kind of both right looking at that game, because I thought he did actually they don't have anybody else they could play to Chivanchara like that maybe, but he's not very good at it, and he wasn't available today. So they also went with Iheanacho, and there were a couple of times where his late he was a couple of nice wee flicks, layoffs. He made that one good run in behind, which seemed to sort of tire him out, and that was him. Once in the game.
Very tired after half an hour. Very.
So but he showed some wee bits of class, but ultimately he's just not that good a footballer anymore. It's the whole package. He just doesn't. You can't play football for very long. But yeah, they don't have Celtic. It is the weird thing about the whole Martin O'Neill return and their transfer business in January as well, and the Sean Maloney influence being such an alien. It just not. We've seen how Sean Maloney likes to play football. We've seen how Martin O'Neill likes to play football, and they're completely opposite ends. I've never really understood how they are meant to work together. You could say, well, maybe that would work, but I don't think it does. At least to confuse performances like this, where they didn't sign players to play the way that I think Martin O'Neill actually wants to play, which is quite direct. They just didn't. They didn't sign players like that in January. Tran Chara, for all he looks like a target man, isn't good at that, and Adamu certainly isn't that type of player. And then they didn't sign the wingers that they should have done either. So they can't really the only Celtic look happiest to me still when they're playing like they've always played, basically sort of Rodgers, Postecoglou, even Lennon style of like keeping the ball 4-3-3, keep the ball, play through the thirds, let Callum McGregor sort of rotate it, let Hatate get on the ball as much as possible. Rotate around and break teams down, and they've always been, obviously, they've been by far and away the best in the league at doing that for over a decade now. When they try to do something else, they look terrible. Like they do look awful, and it's really, I think that's the bedrock of Celtic's success over this period. Obviously, they've not had that much competition for a lot of it, but compared to the competition they have had, which has changed constantly, Celtic have basically had continuity throughout. Even when managers have changed, they've changed at the end of seasons generally, and it's only been tweaks here or there. Rodgers didn't reinvent the wheel when he came back in after Postecoglou had left. Postecoglou for all was there was a change there, but it still was, wasn't a million miles away from how they've been playing before. And Lennon, when he came in, certainly didn't change anything that Rodgers had done. So really, and Nancy coming in and obviously did change it quite significantly. It has broken them, I think. And then O'Neill coming in both times is you could tell he wants to do something different with this team, and but he doesn't have the players to do it. And it's also probably not a way that Celtic should be playing anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I there's been so much smoke blowing up Martin O'Neill's arse over the last few months, and I've been sitting there fuming about that, obviously. And I honestly, I don't think he's doing a good job. I don't.
I think we've got to the stage where the Celtic fans might be agreeing with you going by the videos that I saw with the tail end of this, because the love and the roses seems to have disappeared as he was serenaded with quite aggressive singing at full time in that game.
Yes, so I just it could all get quite. I mean, hopefully, obviously, I very much hope it does get very messy. But that's the thing that I remember Walter Smith getting pelters at Rangers. It does happen.
Absolutely.
It doesn't just being a club legend doesn't inoculate you from that. So yeah, I hope it gets messier from here. But yeah, a confused performance. I thought the subs made Celtic worse. I mean, Oxlade-Chamberlain was brutal when he came on.
He's been take away that Livingston goal. He's been absolutely brilliant, and he's been exactly what we expected, what most people thought. Because again, I mean, Oxlade-Chamberlain is a really good point about going through all the really desperate moves for Celtic. Ian Atchell being one, a late desperate move because he was available because they hadn't got sorted by this. A guy who's past it, but still, to go back to the point that we were talking about previously, still what I thought, he's still the player most likely to bring the best out of other people around him and to give them a sort of shape and unity is in a style of play of getting up there, even though, you're saying, it might not necessarily be the guy that O'Neill would want in that role up there. But I imagine Hatate, Maeda, they probably do want Ian Atchell there because he does have, even if he can't really move as well now, he does have that touch. And then Martin O'Neill himself being a desperate move because, like you said, it's just because he sort of gets the club. And he's been there before, and he would be able to unite the fan base for a period of time, it seems. But again, it's not doesn't actually make sense in terms of the makeup of the actual squad or what they want to do. And then finally, Oxlade-Chamberlain being the single most desperate move, and just the laziest and just shows Celtic up for exactly who they are and how they've been behaving for the last couple of years.
Yeah. So I thought he's just emblematic of it, really. And all the subs. I mean, Luke McCowan again. Obviously, his quote about when we're at our best, no one in this league can touch us. Keeps coming. It's going to get thrown out. I mean, the arrogance.
They've lost more goals. They've lost more games than Hibs. For Christ's sake, I think a Hibs team that takes pelters from its own fans.
And it's for Luke McCowan to come out with that, you can't get a game for the worst Celtic team that anyone can remember. The only memory no one can remember Celtic team as bad as I said. You can't get a game for them.
And it was him that felt emboldened to come out against Nancy as well. I mean, he's had a lot for a guy who's basically not a senior member of the squad. He seems to get a lot of airtime and seems to sort of speak on behalf of a lot of people there.
He does. He has a lot to say for himself. So yeah, it was all around very enjoyable afternoon. Dundee United, very good. We should mention.
No. There's loads to come into them because of the difference between like Celtic with on that pitch deciding to really make the pitch really narrow. It felt like they started off the game and they were getting the ball out to Tierney quite a lot, and he eventually got a chance. Early chance that went over the bar, but he had a few deliveries. You're like, right, that seems sensible, and it looked like him and Stevenson were going to have like a bit of a ding dong battle out there, but that sort of stopped. And when Dundee United, who didn't see too much of the ball in the first half, but sort of like held Celtic at arm's length, it's like they had a discussion about the style that they were playing, and just went. They were just after that. It was long throws, get set pieces, and get the ball wide as much as possible, and to get crosses into the box. Because the only way to play on that pitch, you can't play one-touch football through the lines. You can't play it off someone and pop it off wide. I mean, Callum McGregor for the first half was hopeless. And I don't know if he was hooked or if there was a plan due to his injury to come off, but they'd done that. But let's go on to like a guy who Dundee United who's had Ferry sort of up against Donovan. Thought Ferry got the better of him massively over the 90 minutes. And someone that's taken a lot of stick, who I think had a really good game, Yovu at Dundee United, June.
I started slagging him after like 5 minutes because he just he's just one of these. Like Dundee United have like a collection of centre halves that don't look like they've played football before sometimes. But then he did grow into it. Like all three centre halves actually played pretty well as the game went on. I thought he did do pretty well. I really like. I mean, it feels obvious to pick out the two goal scorers, but I did think they were Dundee United's best players in just general play. Ferry and Agier. I thought they were really good. Agier in particular, I think he looks like a player. I think he's
right. Because you were talking about a lot, and he was excellent against. He was excellent against Dundee last week. I thought one of the big reasons they got on top of that game for large periods, and he is basically moved Kamara, who was arguably their best player, out of the team, and for a 21-year-old who's just come in. In a team that's been really struggling, managers under a lot of stick, he seems to take a lot of responsibility, and him and Chevelle are starting to really like dominate win midfield battles.
Yeah. I mean, I think he won like I checked the stats after because it felt like this, but he had 11 ground duels and he won 9 of them, which compares to 82%. So it compares compared to like Hatate was like half that. Yeah, and McGregor even less. So he was just getting, he was just getting really stuck in. I thought it felt like he was just winning the ball constantly. And I'd heard a few weeks ago, I think before he'd played, I sort of heard in the grapevine that apparently he'd just been like kicking lumps out of people in training, and to the extent like some of the coaches are like, should we just tell him to like calm down a bit? And Goodwin apparently was like, nah, like that's what we need.
I don't believe it. I mean, he's found a home there, absolutely.
But he's just like, he's one of these boys. As soon as he started playing recently, and you just think, you are good in Scottish football. That he's got all the attributes, and I thought his use of the ball. I mean, it wasn't always brilliant, but like I was thinking to myself, it was actually in the lead up to the second goal, where he sort of won the loose ball and played a good ball out to Ferry, which ended up coming back out to him, and he scored. But there was just, as he played that ball, I was like, you're having a really, really good game. And then 2 seconds later, he'd walloped into the back of the net as well. So I don't think he'll regularly score goals necessarily, but yeah, he has all the attributes to be a really good player. And of all the, maybe of all the Dundee United signings, which have obviously, I think we know why they've had to go down this route. They're obviously a bit cash strapped, and it is going to be a mixed bag. So you're going to get your Vertis links and your as well as your Agies. But like, I think he's one where it does look like they might actually make a turn on him, which would then justify the whole sort of project and might be able to help them build. So I don't think he'll necessarily leave in the summer or anything like that, but I think if he keeps playing this, he's going to stand out a mile, and he'll get a move eventually.
I thought like I wasn't impressed again by waters, if I'm being honest, even in a game, in a game where they've won well. But in fairness to Frugia, who I've not been a fan of, he was involved in the first goal, and he started to show at least like something to make you start. Yeah, you're busy. At least he started working out what possibly someone must have saw at some point to bring this guy in.
Yeah. They were at it, didn't they? Even their weaker players in the team. I thought that everyone like sort of put themselves about, and you couldn't fault.
They bullied Celtic. Let's be frank, like properly.
Yeah. I guess the amount of stinking Celtic performances, like on an individual level, like Negrin. What is he all about? He might well win Player of the Season. Like, but he was awful. He was awful. And I was thinking that you were playing so badly, there's just no way you don't score in this game, because it's like that is just what you do.
That's his normal thing.
Yeah, but like that was but he's now, his performances are getting to the level where they're so consistently bad, he's getting hooked before he can score his goal, which is good. So
Celtic were so bad in the second half that even when Maynard Brewer made the mistake, that bit, which is normally like what they would like spark Celtic into life, something like that, and they all realise, they're shit, come on, let's get them. That never came at all. And I thought Dundee United were really properly, and this is a Dundee United said, I know they won their last game at Tannadice, but it's a Dundee United been going through a lot of turmoil. There's a lot of the fans really questioned them. Last week was, as I mentioned in the intro for this, it was a calamity and something that could really have, like, I was starting to feel like that's like beginning of the end stuff for Goodwin. We really start heading into how do you bounce back from that when you've already got fans turning on you. You've already had it's went from having a decent start to turning into a really poor, boring season. Then that happens, and then everyone feels like idiots because they've probably been lording it up at the Dundee fans away. That starts that emotional like turmoil for the fans. Really, people start taking out, as you maybe saw from Celtic fans at the end of this game. So you start feeling, and for them to be able to bounce back in this game in that manner, especially second half, like I said, where they basically went for Celtic's throat, and every single time they got the ball, because Celtic obviously were still dominating possession in the second half, but every time Dundee United got the ball, they were so aggressive with it, and they were constantly looking to ask questions. They weren't playing a lot of like tidy football, as you shouldn't on that pitch. They were making sure that they were going for Celtic's throat, which just shows, as it's happened on numerous occasions, how vulnerable Celtic are, because teams feel emboldened to behave that way against Celtic, and even a team whose confidence must have been on the floor, and they got to do that, and then that's Dundee United got back-to-back wins against Celtic and Tannadice, and I still think we've got to the stage where Celtic haven't picked up a point in Dundee this season.
Yeah. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophet. I mean, Lord knows I've seen enough Rangers teams over the years recently that like teams smell blood, and actually, and it just makes it harder for you then, because you literally are playing different opposition to your rivals in a lot of sense, because people try harder, and it's not a conspiracy theory way. It's like people are trying harder against you because they think they've got a chance, whereas if they just turn up and know that they're beat in the tunnel, then are feeling that way, then they don't tend to. It does make a difference. So so everyone spells blood with Celtic at the moment, and long may that continue.
Right, Euan, let's get to your boys who Rangers 4 at Ibrox 4, Aberdeen 1. Rangers opened the scoring 10 minutes before half-time to Chukwani and solidified the position with a Mikey Moore goal straight after half-time, with Geiger giving Stephen Robinson some hope 5 minutes later. That hope was extinguished later in the half through Nico Raskan, and the gloss was added with a stupendous James Tavernier free kick in stoppage time. Euan, has a result like that has that been coming for Rangers, do you think?
Yeah, kind of.
You don't sound convincing.
So we've been. I think performances recently. Rangers' performances have been better than the results. So I suppose we're probably due that. I mean, as recent listeners of podcasts will know, my main character syndrome is that every time I've said I'll be on the main show, the podcast, in advance, then Rangers have dropped points. But listeners will also realise that I've said that if you're on a bad run, at any club in Scotland, who do you want to play to break that bad run? Aberdeen, Dr. Aberdeen. So that was I was quite confident to say, like, I think Aberdeen will. I'm all right to go on this as Aberdeen. So yeah, I mean, Aberdeen are the worst team I've seen Rangers play this season, bar maybe Kilmarnock. Livingston are the worst team, but that's not been the case in Rangers Livingston games. Kilmarnock have been quite pathetic against Rangers in every game, but so have Aberdeen. Aberdeen have been the easiest opposition Rangers have played, with Kilmarnock maybe. And it was just like, I thought Rangers started very well, and there's kind of a reluctance amongst the Rangers support to ever admit that this Rangers team plays well, which is kind of odd. It's like, there's no trust there with it, and you get understandably, right? But there just isn't really any trust there. It's not like that easy on the eye, even when Rangers play well, I think. But that was a very dominant performance, and people are still kind of moaning. You know, the first half, I thought the Rangers were kind of all over Aberdeen, and it was an example of, I think the best thing you can say about this Rangers team, I think, is you can start to see the approach
and
like
the partnerships
actually
building.
working. Yeah. And I think that starts at the back. Like, Giga coming back in has made Rangers look so much better. And
Suter was having a really tough time, wasn't he? Let's be fair.
He was, and he's not looked great. Whereas Giga is kind of forgotten that in the very early games under Martin, Giga looked by a mile the best signing. He looked absolutely class.
You were certainly telling us all that, Euan. And I'm still and he's back. And he's back now. We've had to wait nearly a year, but Euan is back, and I am right.
We just contain an opinion. It doesn't matter if it goes wrong, it'll come back. And that is what I have to do. And Giga has, and to be fair, my own opinion did waver on Giga. I thought he was crap. But he had some pretty ropey, the Bruges games, dreadful. Yeah. But he had real problems with Jack Butland, kind of sold him to the river quite a few times in those early stages. I think he just lost all confidence.
Let's move on. Let's just okay. Yes. You don't have to justify this point for the next 10 minutes.
But he is, and there's a couple of moments in that Aberdeen game where he's just like, him and Fernandes basically are both like cheat codes.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't make really basic mistakes, which every centre half's capable of, but they both try to, like, the odd line breaking pass that may not work, or whatever. But both of them are bigger, stronger, and quicker than anything they'll be up against.
Yeah,
and they can really, and especially if Fernandes sort of likes to step into the game, and he's actually pretty good at that, and that's fine. But Giga having that recovery pace to just sit, and sweep, whereas Suter cannot do that. Suter's just not quick enough.
Mm-hmm.
They just look like a really solid pairing.
Would this mean, like, because what I've noticed with Rangers a lot recently is, they don't normally put it together for 90 minutes, is that the role's definitely taken the handbrake off a lot, and has looked to try and smash teams, has looked to try and dominate teams and get there. It's not always went perfectly, but there's periods in games where they go for the throat, whereas over Roll's first 3 or 4 months, it was very much survival mode. And do you think a big reason about that now is, do you feel you squeeze the game quite a lot because you've got Fernandes and Giga? Do you step quite high up now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and within, so we made the pitch smaller, but also within that smaller pitch, we've got far better athletes than we had. So Chikwani makes a big difference in terms of winning the ball in that area. You've got him and Raskin that can both do that. You got Robbins playing really, really high on the left-hand side and kind of causing chaos in that sense. He's a real feature of Rangers attacking play.
I mean, he looks like a properly really, really good signing, like a Rangers signing, like what you would expect from me growing up. It's like that's the type of player the Rangers sign, who comes in straight away, and it looks like he's played there for years, and he looks like the best player in his position in the league. Just quite quickly.
It's been a long time since Rangers have made a signing like that. It's just instantly, but perfect.
Yeah.
And there's no like caveats about him either. It's not like he's not like
he wins balls in the air and stuff like that as well. He's good.
He does everything. So I think that's a big point. Tactically, is that you can see that kind of high intensity, win the ball high if you can, press it, be comfortable that if the team tries to knock the ball behind your centre half, so they'll get it anyway. and just sort of break teams down that way, and then you have all your sort of set piece advantages and stuff as well, and you're a big team. So a lot of the things, it just kind of, it just looks like it kind of works. Of all the team, of the three, I do think, I think Rangers are the best team of the three. It doesn't mean that I think Rangers are going to win the league, but I think Rangers are like the most coherent now.
Mm-hmm.
The team that is like...
That might not be the case now. Hearts have their players back, though. That might be the worry. In terms of we go as like, in terms of if we're just talking about coherence, it'd be like they have an identity, and when they bring their better players back into that, you would think that my worry is that their performances might go back up to what they were when they were at their best, which was probably the opening 10 games of the season where Hearts were at their best.
Wow.
But let's leave that just now. We can leave that just now.
You can shite off Cammy Devlin and Tony, but I'm not going to.
I was thinking more Lawrence Shanklin, but don't worry.
I'm not going to say that.
We know your feelings on Lawrence Shanklin.
Yes. But yeah, I think that's a fair point. But I just think that kind of makes Rangers. I think most weeks now Rangers kind of make sense now. Mm-hmm. They still have the propensity to shoot themselves in the foot. Like in the last like 3 games, I think Rangers had only had maybe. I don't know how many shots on target Aberdeen had. 1 or 2, maybe. They certainly didn't have any shots at all in the first half when the game was kind of done. So yeah, Aberdeen had 1 shot on target, which was a goal, unfortunately. St Mirren had 1 shot on target, and Celtic the week before, albeit managed to win that game, of course, had 0 shots at all. Right, so that it does while the variance and luck can have a factor. Look, obviously Aberdeen had 1 shot on target.
Don't I fucking know it.
Exactly. But you do limit that if you just don't let the other team have shots.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one way that I think Rangers look very solid in that sense. It's kind of that is something that has become a real feature. So the Rangers can defend in the way they're defending and just kind of cause enough chaos. And I mean, it doesn't look great. I think we know Rangers don't have the forward players really that you would normally think would require to win the league.
Let's lead into that, Euan, because just before we move on to Aberdeen, that's obviously Nadiri's taking a kicking on this podcast quite specifically, and I've seen Nadiri take a kicking online as well. But he did create a goal where I thought he'd done really well, and his timing with that pass was really good. And I've seen a staunch defence of him, if you like, from respected corners of the Rangers Twitter universe, I would say. Yeah. What's your feelings on Nadiri and overall his partnership with Chamiti and obviously Mikey Moore in the attacking sense?
Yeah, I mean, he puts a power of work in.
Oh no, not a great start. Not a great start.
I've heard
this one before.
That's it. It's like, is he good? I don't really think he is. I mean, he had some good moments in this game. So he got an assist for the second goal, which came from a really good turn in the middle of the park, carried the ball and slipped in Mikey Moore, which are all things he is a bit odd because he does use his size, but he has quite a lot of, I think he could be really quite good. But he's definitely not put it all together yet, as you'd probably expect from the level he came from. But
that's what I was thinking at the time, though. Do we want to be risking a guy who needs to get up to scratch for 3 million in January in a season like this? Is this the time or the place? But this is the problem with analytics and the way that people sign from lower, like ourselves being from a lower thing, and we all want to sell. That sort of never stops. And I think sometimes we've got a strategy and all that stuff, but sometimes you're like, well, can we put that aside for a second? We have got a title that's there to be won, and our main challengers, one of them is Hearts. So maybe if we get good, we could maybe we use this money for something that's just he's going to be very good, or at least be decent, even if it costs a little bit more and there's not going to be a massive sell on. But is it not okay to just do that on occasion?
Yeah, I know. I
rather than a project player.
Yeah, and I think the problem, I think one of the problems is actually that is who is the other striker. is another one of those. It's like a more maybe a slightly more refined or slightly higher potential guy like that in Tremiti, and it's like I would be. You could kind of see if you had, and this is the interesting thing for me with Majowski, because we've not, since Rangers switched to this like 2 striker system, Majowski hasn't really had much of a look in at all.
No, he's not.
He obviously came on and took his chance well, which got kind of oddly disallowed. I thought that one, anyway, which also came for a really nice flick from the DD back to Majowski. And I kind of wonder, like, I've not been a big fan of Majowski at all this season, but I do kind of wonder, especially just at this business end of the season, it's like, should we maybe, his goals to minutes ratio, I think probably the best of
he's deadly at this level. We know that. Yeah. We know that. That's proven.
You can score goals. Like, you can score goals.
Especially and I just now wonder, that Rangers are starting to dominate games where they don't really need maybe Majowski to play like a role when you really need him to be like super rounded for Rangers to be able to get up the pitch, whatever. Like Rangers have got like you're saying, like a strategy. From. Yeah, so why not actually just play like now when you get to this business end, just the guy that probably will likely take his chances when they come.
Yeah. So and he maybe even just his movement. It's probably his movement around about the box a bit. That's an issue I've got with both Ndidi and Tremiti. I don't think they're great at that. Like they don't really make. It's not that they don't make their own chances, but they don't really have a sense for where to be in the box as much as Majowski. I don't think Majowski's amazing at it, but I think he's better at it than those two. So yeah, they're interesting because if Ndidi and Tremiti can put it all together, they'd be really difficult to play against at this level because they're both, I guess, it's similar to the Giga and Fernandes chat. Like they're both bigger and stronger and faster than most their opposition. But yeah, they neither of them really look like they'll score goals. Like Tremiti still hasn't scored what I would deem a normal goal. He doesn't score any normal goals. Like, you need to score normal goals if you're. He doesn't like. He's got this one goal he scored that wasn't against Hearts or Celtic was like a long range goal that Eddie Bleach, remember him? Just like Eddie Beach even just like pammed in. It was like that shouldn't even count, right? And but he doesn't like playing we're at home against Aberdeen. You win 4-1, and he didn't really look like scoring. It's like.
Right, people at home are thinking this has turned into a Rangers podcast. Have we just done 17 minutes on the quite in depth on Rangers? But we've got Euan on, so why the hell not? That's part of what he's here for. But Euan, you did get to see Aberdeen. Stephen Robinson, second game as manager. He certainly didn't seem happy about it at the end. He's went to that place. I mentioned this on the TV show that when I done it on Friday, that I thought there was a world where this was possible. And talking about doing the home truths, I've got a feeling that Jimmy Tilly might have given home truths at some point over the last 18 months. I find it hard to believe that this is the first time anyone's actually spoken to them in that manner. But to see Robinson quite that frustrated this quickly, especially when it's at Ibrox, when he must have been thinking, that tells me that, I've been worried about it. I'm sure I'm not the only person who's worried that he fundamentally will hate this squad. Just hate it.
Yes. Yeah. So I did a pod with Fowler.
Yeah, you done the one. Yeah, but Robinson, I remember you were talking about this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of like it as an appointment from an Aberdeen perspective. But it 100% has
in the short term,
in the short term, and my argument to that is, well, like, who would you appoint to deal with this? Like, if you're trying to appoint a manager to deal with the squad Aberdeen have currently, who is that? Who is that man? I don't know who that. Like,
they don't exist.
Alex Ferguson, right? You need to get Alex Ferguson back to make Kenton out of this, right?
Fucking hell, he'd have them up, even though he's frail and old now, he'd still have them up against the wall, trying to scream in their faces.
He would be. It'd be if it works for Martin Neal, then get Ferguson back. But like, it's like, so I kind of like, I think that would be the wrong thing to do. Think, we need to just get some, I don't know, random German guy who was
just basically coming in the dugout doing it.
Exactly, right. So I don't think you can do that. So you have to you do have to think, right, well, what do we need going forward? And they'd obviously left it too long to make a full-time appointment. So they are where they are with that. They clearly should have got Robinson in right away if they were going to do that. But that's happened now. I don't know where it goes from here because the Aberdeen are so bad.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to try things, but I think Robinson, like, it was quite an odd team. Like when I saw like Lobban and Jamfi were playing, and Balalovic and stuff, and you're like, that's just like, these guys aren't going to do anything. Like, I'm sorry, that's just...
Yeah, I'd really struggle why Ollie Sanya's not starting.
Yeah.
Like, that's a guy who you've had faith in and who you rated. But that just tells me that he just... Again, this is the other thing with Robinson, because he's got a bit of the... I reckon he's got a bit of the Neil Lennons about him. And I think a lot of managers do have this because they're dealing with a lot of guys. But maybe the way Ollie Sanya left, didn't love it. And has a grudge because he did that. I don't know. I don't know what else to think, because it just seems bizarre that you would come in and you've got someone who knows you and who was very successful for you, and a squad of people you don't like, who don't play your image, and the one player you do have, who does, you don't use from the start. It seems bonkers, really.
That was very odd. Especially like that, and he's exactly the kind of striker that in a game like that, when Rangers are going to leave space behind, and Rangers have got players that can probably cope with that, but nevertheless, I'd be thinking, well, I want Olasanya to just run into that space.
And he made a massive difference when he came on at halftime. If I'm being honest, he was a pest, which is what we know. Yeah. Yes, and Aberdeen are in a position now where pest is good, because we've not got any. Like, that's about the level of attribute we're at that they actually have to have.
Yeah, well, because because basically the rest of them are like the 10 easiest players to play against in the league, right? So you might as well have one guy that's difficult to play against. They're just... I thought there was wee bits where it was like you could maybe see Aberdeen were pressing a little bit more aggressively. I just thought they took the goal really, really well. It was a lovely goal, given, because like Chikwani was kind of getting pelters for like giving the ball away, but to be fair, like, yeah, that was bad, but it wasn't like he set them through on goal. It was like Aberdeen had to play quite some really sort of quick, nice passes, and it was a good finish as well. So you could kind of see, but that was very much a one-off in the game.
Yeah.
So I don't think, like, they're not really at a level where they've got so much more quality than teams around them. They just don't. The other results in the league, obviously this weekend, clearly were disasters for Aberdeen. And they're really in it. And as I say, like, the home truth thing, I mean, Leaving clearly went mental at them after the Dunfermline game.
Yeah.
I think it might go the other way, where this Aberdeen team's like fed up of hearing how crap they are, and you might have had to go the other way. Which is, and that would be an argument. Maybe should you have got somebody in? But I mean, I don't know who that would have been.
A soft manager. Where do you find them?
Yeah.
in Scotland as well. Not something that we have in abundance.
No,
but I mean, they've got a huge. I mean, they're playing St Mirren next, so so he's going straight back to Paisley. They'll be bang up for it. The players, their fans will be bang up for it as well. I mean, it's hard to see Aberdeen going there winning. It really is, especially St Mirren just got their win, and all the sort of like the reasoning of how much this team will want to do a number on Aberdeen, and how much the fans will love having Robinson leave, and then literally a few weeks later getting level on points with Aberdeen. And then Aberdeen are playing Hibs, and I know like Hibs aren't great, but Hibs beat Aberdeen all the time in recent times, and Hibs still obviously have good players, and me personally always look forward to playing Aberdeen in recent years for the reasons that we spoke about. So it's like these next two games, it's not like you would hand pick them if you're in Aberdeen's position, and then suddenly, like right away, then you're in the bottom six, and you could quite easily be 11th by the time that comes around. Yeah.
I mean, look, they're in serious bother, which they should have realised could have happened a while ago.
Yeah,
and they've hit the panic button without, and like the thing with Romsey, he doesn't have any levers to pull. Like, he doesn't have a transfer window. He can maybe get a free agent in or something like that, but like
free agent in April. Not a good one. I can assure you of that. That's not a heap I want to look at. I mean, fair.
No. So Lord knows who is who's available, but people that even Celtic wouldn't sign.
Yeah.
So yeah, but what else? He has nothing else to do. So he's like, and like they have no defenders that can defend. They're so easy to play against. They've got very little going forward. It's like, yeah, I don't know. And you've already called them cunts. So like, like I would just do that consistently every week. Like,
see how that goes. So a nervy Aberdeen to a nervy Tynecastle, where they got another huge moment with their 6th 1-0 win since Christmas, this time through a towering header from Oisin McAtee. You had the pleasure, we'll call it, of watching this. What are your thoughts about it?
I mean, yeah, if you've seen like any of Hearts' recent home games, you've seen this.
You've seen them all.
Yeah, like it like you could just tell when I saw the lineups, I was like, this is going to be a honking game, and you could tell. Say Hal could get injured in the warm up, which could have, he could have done lots of different things to react to that, because you already had McEntee in the team. Kent, so it was meant to be McEntee, Kent, Halkett and McCart as the back four, and Altena or Altena was meant to play right back, not sure, right, but Altena was in the team, and he's obviously, instead of thinking, oh well, I could put Altena back at right back and shift McEntee along and then put Chesney-Coburn in or something like that, he picks
No way, that's fun.
Yeah,
that's fun. And to be fair to Derek McInnes, right now, why would you fight your instincts when your instincts lead to the same thing every single time? Or that's how it feels anyway, especially at Tynecastle.
Yeah, so it's just that, I mean, it really makes me nostalgic for the Walter Smith, the Rangers teams, because like just how it's like a challenge, like how many centre halves can you fit in the team, and just having a back four of 4 centre halves and then a full back playing as a winger, and it's like that was Walter Smith used to love doing that, but it does lead. I mean, I'd be. I feel like I say this all the time, but I would be astonished if this Hearts team wins this league. Honestly, like they're so bad. Like for a league-winning team, that this would be. I know Rangers and Celtic are both.
Whoever wins it's the worst team that's won it. It's the worst team. It's the worst team that's won it. Certainly in our lifetime. I don't think that. I think you would even think. I mean, I know some of the biggest Hearts fans around, and I know even they would. So I lean towards at least that as being a fact.
Yes. So, but even out of that, like, to in general play, I think Hearts are maybe like the 5th best team in the league. Honestly,
you're going to have some Hearts fans laughing at this one. I'm sure we've got plenty who listen to us.
But you're fair enough. They're very, very solid, even with a lot of changes, and that's the one thing. One credit I would definitely give them is obviously is a very makeshift defence and didn't look particularly troubled at all. That's partly to do with Dundee. Dundee were kind of good opponents for them, because Dundee just kind of did the sort of, it was more that one of the sort of very passive Presley performances that Dundee often give, as opposed to like, unlike how they were at Pittodrie, for example, where they were quite free flowing and played some really nice stuff. They didn't really do that. They were more sort of sitting off the game. They were very organised, great shape about them. They didn't look troubled. But
when he goes to basically any of the big grounds, Easter Road, Tynecastle, Parkhead, well, maybe not the Parkhead, they had a decent go in the Scottish Cup, I suppose, but on the whole, when they go to these grounds, he reverts to what the first stage of his learnings at Dundee. Yes. He reverts back to that, even though, like, you would think when you've got the players that Dundee have and the confidence that they have, especially after what was going on last week, that against that makeshift defence, you think, well, why not? Like McEntee, like with Congreve and you get McCart, like McCart out in a wide area with these types of wingers. Yeah. Surely you would want to be getting them the opportunity to get one-on-one with them.
I know, but they just didn't really. So I mean, and to be fair, the game felt like a 0-0 all day, unless something that happened from a set piece, basically, and that's, lo and behold, that's what happened. But yeah, it was a very poor game. I think both teams played quite, like, both teams were organised. I think both teams would probably feel like, I imagine both Presley and McInnes would probably analyse and think, well, like, our shapes were good and all that, but like within those, like, nothing really happened. So it was like Hearts went, it was almost, I think, an hour until Hearts had anything really resembling like a shot on target. That was quite a long range one, so there wasn't really much to write home about. It was just another one of these games for Hearts, fair enough. And it's whether these like, I don't think Devlin coming back into the team was rubbish.
Okay.
He just didn't have a good game at all. He was just like, well, he looked like Cammy Devlin, like the Cammy Devlin that we know.
I was surprised to see him and Leonard together. I thought the whole point was that Leonard was to replace, short term was to replace Devlin.
Yeah, and I do that. I mean, you need to make a decision there, because I think Beningame,
he has to play. He has to play. Yeah, I think he's a really, really good player, and he's absolutely something that Hearts have to have. He's able to take the ball, he can dribble a bit, he can drive in that midfield, and he tries to make sort of, I think he should do more going forward, to be honest, with his ability. But he does try to make sort of like, he still makes short passes, but he tries to play through the lines a bit more, and obviously Devlin just isn't really capable of doing that, despite all the other attributes he does have, which are absolutely outstanding for this league at a time. But yeah, even when you're watching the highlights, you see the difference when Beningame came on. And I know he's only on for 15 minutes, but I'm watching the highlights. Suddenly he's getting on the ball, and Hearts are driving forward, and they're creating opportunities. Yeah,
and I think Leonard's a better footballer than Devlin. He's just not. But it depends if you're getting the Devlin like playing out of skin. Then you would have Cammy Devlin.
You have to, because like he's actually unique in this entire league for hitting that. Yeah. You start to get to, obviously not this level, but it's like a N'Golo Kante type thing off the ball, where he's like, where he's doing the jobs of two guys in terms of, which is, but for any manager, hard to turn down. But for Derek McInnes, that will be, that's like a drug.
But Leonard gives you, like, Leonard can take set pieces, and I think he's just
which led to the goal. Which led to the goal. Yeah.
Where I think he's just a more rounded player, Leonard. So that would be that's an interesting one to see how that develops, and if to get all these players back, as McInnes was kind of saying that after the game, like, will that make a big, at this stage? I don't know. Shanklin coming back is a big.
How was he? Because he played quite a lot. He played about 40 minutes, did he not?
Yeah. So his like link up play instantly looked better. I do think there's still this thing where,
oh no! Wow.
I know, but there was still at times, like with the way Dundee were playing, that there was space around behind, and when Shankland come on again, that doesn't happen. And there is this, like, the whole thing with like Braga and Shankland don't actually really suit playing with each other. But at the start of the season, they were both playing really well, so it worked. And then I think Braga's form maybe dipped slightly, because I think he was very much like sacrificing himself for Shankland in a way, and then for the team. Since Shankland's got out, I think Braga's probably played better and been kind of the main man again. And then he'll have to shift back to being, I suppose the more sort of supporting role. Someone like a good version of Kabori would be better, stylistically.
Like the style.
Like, it'd be one of him and then Braga and Shankland, but that's not. The Kaboris isn't that, so they don't really. So they will be better Shankland in the team. I think, but yeah, it's not the perfect stylistic fit. They've also got the Kazuridas thing of him not really.
You'd imagine here, Joel seems pretty sure, and I bought what Joel was saying about Kazuridas. Not like, it's like he almost wants Shankland to be there. It's like a partner with quality, so he's more willing to release the ball and to bounce off someone rather than just bouncing off like no one. Then you end up wanting to go down your own alleyways. You want to start doing things yourself. Like I do kind of buy that. Hopefully not. Hopefully it is just that Kizaridis is a one-trick pony. He had a good period, and actually is quite shit. And hopefully all that catches up eventually. Is there anything you want to say? Anything more you want to say about Dundee before we move on?
Not really.
We spoke loads with Dundee in recent weeks, so we don't have it doesn't have to be forced. They've done they went back to what they've done before, which means we can't really talk about it as much because there's not much to say. We're going to play like that. And is that Hay playing instead of Murray? I wonder what yous are planning. It's just so obvious sometimes when you see like a lineup. Oh, Finlay Robertson in there. Okay, we're looking for energy. We're looking for defensive now. It's okay. I know what you're going to do.
Yes.
Anyway, let us go to the massive game at Rugby Park, where Kilmarnock all but relegated Livingston on Saturday through a goal in the first half from Joe Hugel, who then turned provider for Finlay Curtis to put that final nail in Livingston's coffin, which is pretty much, it's just filled with nails by this time. It's like
31 nails in a row.
Yeah, when it stop. They've had enough. They're dead already. Can everyone leave them alone? But let's start with Kilmarnock. Let's just start with Hugo's performance. I think is a really good place to start because he had what, by all accounts, a honking first 20 minutes, which culminated in a fresh air shot that somehow got back to him to poke it back wide to goal. Yeah. But then after that, Euan, he's basically been the main man and been the guy who's kicked Livingston down.
Yeah, I quite like him as an option. I think compared to like other, he's not like John Jules, who's obviously been Kilmarnock's best forward this season. But compared to someone like Dackers, Hugo just looks, he looks like a striker, not whatever Dackers was. And he puts himself a bit good energy about him. Probably finesse wouldn't be a word I would associate with him. Yeah,
I was picturing arguments in the stands over Hugo during this game of like, send him back. He's a huddy. He's only played fake football. So that's like the type of thing that all the suspicion that we hold for under 23 players, I imagine was levelled at him, where you've got other people that are maybe defending him. But I mean, after that, his movement for the goal was brilliant. He went back, he went forward, back, and forward again to the point that he got the defender had no idea where he was, and then he picked it, and it's a really, really clever finish.
Yeah, no, it was good, and he set up the second goal as well, didn't he? So.
Well, it was absolutely brilliant with a little turn out there, and he knocked it in, and he got the afterburners on, and then maybe just not the greatest of passes across. Curtis had to do a bit of work, but yeah, I mean, he's the man who's went and won the game there, and it looks like, I mean, he scored against Celtic as well, but it's a really, really, it's looking like a really like crucial signing for Kilmarnock, because if they didn't have you would think they might be up shit creek with not the options up there.
I think. Would you say probably Kilmarnock had the best January transfer window of all the bottom 6 teams, maybe, or at least the relegation threatened teams? I kind of feel that, Livingston or whatever they did, right? Joel Nibley came back and just a random.
I mean, they've done a lot of work.
Yeah,
I mean, when Martindale's involved, it's just numbers heavy is always the way it is with Livingston.
Yes,
we'll focus on numbers.
They did, but I was just looking at their starting lineup, and I think only one of their January signings started, which was Nibley, which isn't great considering I think they signed about 7 or 8. Right? So that's not great. Whereas if you look at Kilmarnock's team, they had Roos, Shunning Larson, Chibola, Curtis, and Hugo. So that's half a team. So that's half a team that's actually contributing, and a lot of those players are like some of the better players. Roos has probably settled that position. He's not been fantastic. He's had his moments, but like he's kind of settled that goalkeeping position down.
Back-to-back clean sheets as well.
Yeah. Charlie Larson looks like a good player to me. Chibola has given them a bit more solidity in the middle of the park. Curtis we'll probably come on to speak about him, but he's been a sort of real bright spark. And Hugo gives them that more reliable. I mean, as much as he has fresh air swipes, and you could call that a reliable striker, but he just
a handful.
can play the role. Yeah, he's a handful, and he can play the role.
and it allowed a Watkins to sort of drift wide, which helped with the goal. Trying to work out how that team works and functions, really, the one that they had there, because it's like they have Curtis, it's like Killie, Curtis, Hugo, and Watkins all playing, and you're like, I don't really understand how this sort of like fits around in parts.
Yeah, but I think, like Curtis, and Jishbola, less so Fulworth, and Kilty probably, but Curtis and Jishbola are quite decent athletes, so I think it kind of helps play weird systems because they can kind of cover the ground. You can see that with Curtis' goal. I mean, ground he makes up for that. To briefly touch on Livingston, that's the kind of thing. That game where Guy Neville, I think it was against West Brom, and he just like basically retired in the change rooms after. He was like, I'm done. I just got absolutely ripped to pieces. I can't remember who it was. West Brom, we were playing white, but he got ripped to pieces, and he was like, I can't do this anymore. Cammy Kerr should watch that Finlay Curtis goal and just see how much he got burned past. Like, he had a good 5-10 yard head start on Curtis, and he just got absolutely demolished in a sprint. It's like, he should just realise that he should not be playing at this level. Like, Cammy Kerr was very barely a Premiership footballer when he was younger, I would say.
Yeah. But
kind of got there on basis like a lot of hard work and fair play. And probably being like really, really fit, but he is way off it, like way off it.
And there seems to be a number of those, and I mean, not to the same level as Kerr, because
team,
they're like not just same level as Kerr, but and obviously like with Wilson, who has obviously had a miles better career than Kerr would ever dream of. So I don't want to, but I mean, Wilson's starting to look like every bit his age.
Yeah.
At Livingston. Finlayson, again, like Kerr, you're not cut out for this level, just frankly. That's just, and again, it's not, don't want to be like overly harsh on these guys, but it's been clear all season, and that's the team closest to you. Probably give you a bit of a hide in there, and I think Kilmarnock were pretty poor, even at the start of the second half, and Livingston still didn't really manage to do anything. I mean, they still could have went 2-0 up because Polworth just kept he robbed one of the defenders and run through, and like robbing the defenders seemed to be the Livingston defenders seemed to be a feature of the game, and it must be frustrating because obviously they got the clean sheet against Hibs, and they've had some better sort of defensive performances. Kabongolo looked like he was maybe coming out of a game, and he's a big guy and he's a monster again. Maybe a lot of the lines and things that you were talking about earlier, like his size and his strength might sort of get him away with the fact that he's not obviously the world's greatest footballer, but as you saw with him, another one dealing with Finlay Curtis in this game, like his reality sort of came and spoke to it. And this did, after the 4 draws leading into this game, they were probably felt they forced to go. Like I said, against Hibs, I mean, they just did not really want to take part in it at all. And it's like this game sort of forced them to, like, we are going to have to play here because it's we're playing the team above us. We're already the X amount of points behind. We will have to go and try for 3 points here. And the second that they actually move away from just like everyone back, they are exposed for who they are, frankly.
Just, they're the worst team that's been in the league for a while.
Since last time they were in the league.
Oh, yeah. But maybe worse side of it. It just, because they had more excuse last time, I felt, because it's like, fair enough, like a team like Livingston, you're obviously kind of overachieved, and maybe just the key parts of that team got a bit old, and and then you get relegated, and you can kind of understand like not moving on from guys that have served you so well, but like somehow get promoted and then just sign more guys like that, as well as keeping some of those guys you still had, like Scott Pittman still plays every week, like, so that kind of it's kind of unforgivable, play bad recruitment, which is interesting given like Martindale basically has given himself a job just to do that when he made such a bad job over for several years. But like they'll be, obviously they're going to be relegated. They're now on this run of longest run in Scottish professional football history, I think, with 31 games.
31.
In all competitions. So that's, and you wouldn't be that shocked if they didn't win a game between now and the end of the season.
Wow. Newbley coming back, you thought might have been quite cool, but it's the Newbley of his final season at Livingston. I mean, he just doesn't really move. The best thing about him is that he would drift into the wide areas as a striker, and then he would take it for a run. Very awkward. He could dribble. He was talismanic at one point.
I loved him, but he was great. But
he's just. I said he nearly scored at Easter Road, but I mean, outside of that, it was like just I couldn't believe. And I'm still looking at this. I can't believe Smith has been dropped. I find that I've watched like 2 or 3 before the recent run. I think doing this pod, I ended up watching on Y Scout maybe a cut. Like obviously Livingston played Rangers, and then Y Scout I think they were playing Falkirk possibly, and they done it, or St Mirren, and they done all right. And I was impressed with Smith. He scored in the game, and I was just like, right, Smith's got talent. He's got mobility. Again, there's issues in his game, but we're talking about this Livingston team and all the things that it lacks. And then I've last time I tell you, okay, he's not playing. Out of everyone, you've decided that he's the one that comes out, the guy who can run the flanks, who can dribble a bit, who's got a bit of drive, can hit a shot and can cross a ball. You've decided that's what you can do without to play Newbley, who can't move really about. Yeah. And then who else you got? Muirhead, who's got Stevie May, and it's like Bakila, and I'm like, all of them are extremely mobile. They're mostly old, finished, like on the way out players. I'm just like, how can it possibly be Smith? I couldn't believe it the last couple of weeks when I seen it. I thought against Hibs it's because they just wanted height or strength or something like that, or they wanted to hold on and then unleash Smith later. That was kind of what I was maybe thinking. That was when I was trying to understand with Hibs. But in this game against, I was like, he's got to fucking play. You don't have anyone else who can remotely do that in a forward position.
You're one of the best players in that Rangers game recently. So you scored a really good goal, and then it was the only threat he had throughout. So you're very odd, and it's also this. I mean, maybe it's the system that you're playing in the sort of 3-5-2, and he doesn't have like a natural place. But
play him as one of the strikers and let him drift around.
Yeah, but it's odd. And yeah, they just like they have so many. But I had completely forgotten that they signed Barry McKay, and then he comes off the bench.
Let me tell you what I thought when he came on at Easter Road. What was going to happen? I was so sure of it. But yeah, I mean that's. I mean, before we finish on this game, maybe a bit of love for Greg Kiltie, Ewan, who's really. I mean, under Neil McCann in general, I've got to say, I mean, he shut me. I really didn't fancy it. I thought it was a very, very like, oh, that's a weird appointment. Don't see. This guy hasn't been involved in it for ages. He'd essentially moved into punditry. You know, when like you forget that they were ever even involved. Like I know that he'd done the Rangers gig last season, but that was something very different. That was a very unique set of affairs. Like that
was just to give him good stuff to talk about as a pundit, basically.
I thought that was like for the sportsman's dinner circuit.
Yes.
We were like that was. I'd rather be thinking about like that Neil McCann was like seriously looking to get back into it. Even though I don't get me wrong, I think Neil McCann's one of the better pundits. I think Mim and McFadden are probably easily the best pundits we have in Scottish football, really. And I do like listening to him, and I do find like his demeanour would suit being like a pretty decent manager, but you think it's not really worked out before, and it's just you just feel they've moved on, and then you're getting a massive job when it's really, really struggling and bad. You're like, does it sound good? It just seems like a bit desperate. But I have to say, he's done remarkable, to be honest, because he's also had the John Jules thing. He's being robbed of your best striker, who he sort of really brought to life by basically saying to him, what I'm going to do is get some people near you. It's like what I might try and do is like, maybe we are going to try and put some sort of attack in football on the go, but he's put something together and they look really, really difficult to play against. And you still look at the squad and you don't like it. You know, it's not like you're looking at it, you go, oh, that's a really good squad. So I think he deserves loads of credit. And one of the main beneficiaries of this has been Greg Kiltie, who's always been a lovely player, but consistency has always been something that's been an issue with him.
Yeah. And he just like, I think he has given a platform to the attacking players to sort of look
Like, I've got
good.
some sort of trust in you that you're able.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's definitely like they're coaching the attacking rather than just like lumping it towards the forwards and hoping that they do something, which seems to be the Kettlewell approach. So yeah, it'll just be interesting to see if Killie can get out of this, then yeah, he'll be McCann, like what Kilmarnock will play next season under McCann. I'm not sure, but like I think you have some credit in the bank. Because I quite like watching Killie, actually.
That's what, yeah. And I mean, I hated watching them at the start.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was like, I just did not want to watch it whatsoever. And I know obviously like it's, especially at home is where they're really looking great. But we all know which team, the teams in the three teams in the Championship playoffs won't drop into 11. We all know which team that is. It's Aberdeen, clearly.
Yes.
That's what they've all got their eyes on. But we're talking about that Aberdeen were dragged into it because St Mirren, arguably, I still think despite the Celtic game, had the biggest shock of the weekend with a win at the Falkirk Stadium. I don't think many people saw this coming for a managerless team who were, despite the fact they held on against Rangers, they were bad. That would be a fair thing to say. Barry Stewart opened the scoring with a deadly finish in the opening 15 minutes, but St Mirren fought back with a goal from a set piece in either half, firstly from Freckleton, and the winner eventually from Liam Donnelly. Euan, I watched this today on Y-Scout.
Yeah.
And I quite enjoyed it. I was like straight away, I just saw that Alan Campbell was starting, which I thought was pretty bold, considering Alan Campbell doesn't start football matches. That's kind of just the world that we live in now. As I said, Dick King, after maybe playing a bit of time over at right wing back in the Rangers game, which weird. And I was thinking like they just will never move from 3-5-2 regardless of whatever happens in this world. You will never ever not do it, regardless if you have any of the players who are able. But he came out and Donnelly was taken into that back three, who ended up playing right centre back. And he had O'Hara in front of him playing in the right wing back role, which had very mixed results, which I'll come on to soon. And like I said, Devaney was playing in there, Calvin Phillips, Alan Campbell, and then the continued sort of preference, it looks like, for Lindeloo and Young. For Falkirk, Nielsen came back in because Liam Henderson was missing, which was quite a big loss because, I mean, he's had a really, really good season, and him and Donaldson had linked up a really nice partnership in there. So Nielsen came back in there, and Calvin Miller was the only other thing who was surprisingly brought central, going back to the role he played earlier in this season. When he done maybe in the middle part of the season, he moved into the centre, with Yates moving out to playing out on the left wing with Brogio out there. St Mirren tried to play more football, Euan, is what I've noticed.
It did look like that. It looked like with mixed results, but particularly the first goal that they conceded, or the only goal they conceded. But yeah, I don't think the weird thing with St Mirren is, like, if you look at their defenders, particularly the back three they had now, in this game. Yeah, in this game it was Gogic, Freckleton, and Donnelly. Now, I suppose I would say, if I was picking two midfielders who I would say are the least comfortable on the ball for midfielders in the league, Donnelly and Gogic might be quite high up on us. But for defenders, like, they're not actually, like, you know, like, if you move, like, I thought Gogic did really well against Rangers the week before. Like, in this game,
he was great.
Sweeper. He just looked like he was really enjoying himself. I thought, like, and he was just
he's quick. He's deceptively quick. Gogic. He gets around the pitch.
I thought he played really well in that game, but so you can kind of see, like, they could all, like, play football, so why not try to do that? And they've got, like,
and then they've got Devaney brought in to play that defensive midfield, so you can see that the link that would work. Yeah,
and like Phillips is a good footballer. Campbell's I don't really know what Alan Campbell is anymore. But you know, they do have some footballers, so it's like that probably better than and crucially what they don't really have at the moment are, I would say, like reliable big lumps up front. Which you kind of need.
Go-to men have dropped off in terms of Ayunga and Mandra.
Yeah, Mandra and Ayunga top form, then you'd
be mad not to use it.
Yeah, exactly. Then you go for it. But and then you go your midfield runners, like they can catch up to them. But then if you don't really have that to hit, like you're better trying to work through the lines a bit. And there's no point like trying to ape. Like Stephen Robson's gone now. There's probably going to be a slight change in direction. I don't think there's any point necessarily. Again, yes, I've kind of got a squad that's based around playing three at the back. Maybe they need to continue to do that, but they were kind of playing two midfielders to make a back three work. So they didn't have to do that. And they could. I think they've got. It's not like they don't have guys that could play in a back four. Maybe it's slightly more of an issue on the right hand side because they don't have. I don't know who they would play right back because you'd want to play Richardson as a right back. You want to try and keep him a bit far away from his old goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was O'Hara playing right wing back?
He played right wing back in the first half. Like it must have been really frustrating for him because they barely got into the game at all, and he wasn't getting many touches. And then when he was getting crosses in, they were all under hit. I mean, Tans on the other side was doing the exact same thing. I imagine St Mirren fans would have been tearing their hair out at those sort of the crossing in that game. But funnily enough, in the second half, it was maybe about the 50 odd minutes, he'd been defending, and I think they were defending a set piece, and he picked the ball up just outside the box, and he'd done like a drive and run from his own box up to like the halfway, and then he went out to the right, and I was like, well, there's kind of what you're missing in the midfield, just shown to you there. And then he went out to the right in that bit because he passed the ball, then he got the ball back, and then he's touched it down out wide, and it went out for a throw-in. And I was like, well, this is, maybe it's just that area's too tight for him as well, like for a guy who probably likes to be quite rangy with the ball. But then after that, then obviously he ends up winning the free kick playing out there. Called Leon McCann, who had a really good game at left back. He gets some like himself in a mess, and then O'Hara being on the pitch, he takes a free kick. It's an absolutely brilliant ball in, and it's a great header for Liam Donnelly that goes on to win the game. So it was a really interesting decision that didn't look like it was working, but eventually, and in the second half, he had a few other good balls in from there. It ended up looking like, well, it might have actually been the thing that ended up winning them the game, strangely enough.
Yeah.
To go to the earlier goals, as you're saying, they tried to play football. It's been some of that. It'd be unfair to think, but you watch that and you think, right, that was a stupid decision. You can't bloody do it, as you quite eloquently spoke about how it probably does make a bit of sense, especially with Devaney playing in there. But I think make an absolute mess of it, the two of them. And it gets to, and I think it's Tate who makes a little sliding sort of poke to get it through to Barney Stewart and I mean, they said it on Sportsy, but there's just no other way of it. It's clearly a guy who's feeling on top of the world because it is such a deadly finish. Like the guy doesn't need to think for a second what he wants to do, and it's so crisply done. It right in the bottom corner, perfectly hit with the correct pace. It just like absolute like sort of striker's coach's dream of a finish.
Yeah, I know. I wonder what's gonna. I kind of thought he needed like another sort of a year of like marinating there a wee bit because he is still quite raw. When you see Stuart Quayle up there.
Some of his passing and stuff is poor. It's when he drops off and he tries to play. He had a great chance to put Calvin Miller through at one point and he totally overhit the pass. And it's not the first time I've seen that in terms of, because we spent a lot of time talking about, so let's talk about, as you're saying, maybe a bit of the reality of Barney Stewart.
Yeah. I also think his link-up play when it's like one-touch stuff is quite good. But then like when he's got the ball under control, it's almost like this sort of instinctual sort of stuff is when he's got runners off him, it all looks quite good. And then, but if he's facing the goal, not so much. But yeah, but possibly he's going to start scoring, or he's going to score enough goals by the end of the season that someone might take a punt on him early.
But do you think someone even might go for him? Yeah. The smartest move.
Because they'll get some figures. I would think, no question. So yeah, I don't know. I think it probably would still be good for him to get another year of like just a solid year,
and a nice understanding manager who likes working with young players and stuff. It seems like it's going so well. Don't move too quickly is always what you think. But like you said, that bit of money comes in for Falkirk especially. You'd be hard to turn down.
Yeah, I think both that idea and for him as well, because he wouldn't have been even thinking about being a professional footballer 18 months ago probably. So if someone says here's $20,000 a week, you'll be like, yes please. So I think it'll be just interesting to see. But I think he'll play for Scotland. I'm convinced he'll play for Scotland.
Mm-hmm. So someone has to in that position at some point. Exactly. So, I mean, for talking of Scotland, Scott Bain made the squad again, but another mistake, which is starting to look like quite a long line of recent mistakes that have cost Falkirk goal. It was a really good corner from Tanzer, as you would maybe expect, and Freckleton, as he does a lot. He's really good. He's really good at attacking a ball, and he's really aggressive with his header in. But there's no reason for Bain to be cut. It's a crowded as anything penalty area, and it's a good ball right on top.
Just leave it.
Yeah, I just don't think it's for you to deal with that, and that comes to again. Even though Bain he had a decent save later on as well. Something else I wanted to mention about like St Mirren, it's that front two, and then Lindelöf and Young. Wow, that's frustrating. That is a frustrating front two. I mean, Lindelöf makes a mess of the when Barney Stewart hits the post with the header, which he really should have done better with. Lindelöf makes a mess of it up top. His touch is terrible. Then he belts the ball back to the halfway line, and it does get under control. But he then gets, I think it might be. I really wasn't sure who the player out wide was. Maybe because you know what it's like sometimes that you only get that one camera on Y Scout, so it can be very hard to see. And there's no commentary. You're looking miles away trying to work it, but the touch is terrible. Like for him, and he gets caught, and then Leon McCann gets in for the cross, and he puts in an absolutely brilliant ball, and Stewart headers it off him. So Lindelöf had a frustrating, as he very often does. And then you've got Jake Young, who is becoming, to me, I've watched a fair bit of him now, one of the most frustrating players. He's got loads of mobility. He's quite skillful. He can get away with players. He moves into the channels a lot. He turns really quickly and well, and then he always fucking makes the wrong decision with the ball, or he takes an extra touch, or he has a shit finish. So I mean, I can see right now why you would want to play him, because like they lack mobility in general. St Mirren just as a team, and in the set, especially in the centre forward areas and the wide areas. But so if you've got those two up front, that'll be driving you up the wall, I would think.
I just don't really I think I'd said this a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't really understand why Jake Young was playing ahead of some of the other options, and none of the other options are in form at the moment. But from what looking at Jake Young's career, I can't see that he's ever been in form. Like, I don't know what he has to like fall back on. And you're right, he does have attributes, but like, does he have enough attributes to like justify? I would kind of, I know there's like fitness issues and stuff maybe as well, but I would be more inclined if someone like Madron is fit, just try and let him play himself into form. Get Young back in the team. As well.
Young did it all right when he came on. To be honest,
just like I would trust those guys to play themselves back into form rather than and putting it on the. I would just, I suppose, at the position they're in, if I was a St Mirren fan, I'm glad that those guys get the club like put on their shoulders and say, right, you saved us from this, as opposed to Jake Young. Simple as that.
And there you go. Yeah, but Falkirk, I wouldn't be over this point. They played quite well at points. They still created chances. They're good. They got undone by two set pieces. And like I said, when you're missing Henderson, that might be something that happens. And obviously with Bain sort of being out of form. But they will be frustrated because it was a draw. The two teams ahead of them when there is a possibility of still making European football, because fifth could, and it's definitely not normally what you'd say should, will. Normally we just say fifth is European football. This season is definitely it's not a guarantee whatsoever. But Hibs and Motherwell played out a 0-0 draw at Fir Park, which I had I suppose it's just easy to say, the misfortune of attending for a whole host of reasons. One of them being that stand up, you're forced to go into the top. Normally when I go to Fir Park, we take a better crowd. I was quite surprised that Hibs only maybe took about 1,500. But I suppose when you're fifth for 20 weeks or something, people do eventually get bored. And obviously with the sort of style of play that I'm sure everyone's well aware of now, of Hibs, that has got the fans frustrated. But because we're all stuck in that top tier and they don't allow you in the bottom one, the view's terrible. That stand is so fucking steep. You can't. Yes. And I couldn't see the goal closest to us. So in the second half, when Hibs done finally start to play on, so that shot that Boyle had, I'm just looking around waiting to see if people start celebrating. And the same for just goal that got disallowed. Again, the only reason I knew the ball was coming in, and after Boyle lost the ball moving forward, I didn't even look at what happened there. I just looked round at the Motherwell end to try and figure out, is this a goal or not? So and obviously, and I don't have a problem with it. All the young team are down the front, the block 7 with the drum and that, and it's quite intense because you're always in this one bit. But they're all standing up, as everyone is. So I'm really not going to criticise standing football. I always stand at football. So they're all up.
But you've only got 1 foot at the moment, Tony. You should be standing.
And then everyone, but they're all there and they're pushed right forward as they do, all the ultras, because they stand forward. They've got all their stickers and what have you. And they're doing, so they're also blocking the view further down. Like I just cannot see basically an entire box at this end, which isn't great. But fortunately, there's not much happening in those boxes because it was an absolute just. You knew it was a bad game when it was referred to as a good tactical battle by David Gray. Even though I do buy a bit of what he's saying, because I think there was elements in the way Hibs were playing that was definitely about shutting Motherwell down.
Yeah.
Especially in the first half. The way, a feature of Hibs' play has been Nicky Cadden and Paslak over recent weeks, and Paslak was not getting anywhere near the box in this game. And Hibs, obviously, their press, and they've never bothered with Callum Ward when he had the ball, and then they shut down Shuto, who had a bad game. And I thought he was terrible against Livingston as well.
I don't care for Anti-Shuto, that's all.
He's got 3 goals and an assist already, but those 2 all off the bench. But he was. I feel like he was in there because he works very hard, and that was against to try and block them off coming forward. Motherwell, but his link-up play was atrocious. The difference when Eldon came on, in terms of Eldon, he wasn't getting in the box enough, but he was dropping off and helping Hibs get the ball from one side to the other quick enough for Hibs to start getting to the byline and maybe creating some chances. And obviously his touch was miles better, and we were able to hold the ball, and I thought that made a huge difference. But Shuto, I thought, was really, really poor. But Hibs, as I said, that first half was heavily focused on making sure that Motherwell couldn't sort of do what they do, and I thought Motherwell they struggled. They were quite crap. They did, and they went with Stephen O'Donnell. When it's who's playing back 4 and where are they playing for Motherwell? It's always that. Yeah. So they had O'Donnell was playing left back, and Sparrow. Sorry, I think so. I think it was O'Donnell was at left back, and Sparrow was at right back, or maybe it was vice versa. I'm trying to remember. I think maybe actually no. I think it was the other way around, because Sparrow left back because there was less. I think they obviously thought there was just less danger, and Sparrow can be quite leaky, so I think they thought there was less danger going outside. Obviously, they wanted to make sure that Sod was going up against Nicky Cadden, and then they had McGinn and Welsh. I thought Welsh had a really good game. McGinn and Welsh just always do. It seems they're sort of never pull. They went with Watt and Priestman, which I thought has been a bit unusual. Normally, it is just one or the other. So they were obviously trying to get a handle on the midfield. And that battle in there was all right at times. I thought Hibs made the big change in the second half with the way that they used Barlaser. He pressed up much higher on them and played a much more combative game than I've seen him play in recent weeks. Well, basically the whole time he's been here. And he was all right at that. And that in the second half unleashed Chaiwa, who had a much better game, because the first half, honestly, I felt like he didn't touch the ball for the whole of the first half, and then he had a much bigger influence in the other 25 minutes in there, and because that period in the second half, Hibs really managed to take control of the game again without really creating too many. So McGrath had one where he was about to score that he got a last minute block on him. We saw the Boyle shot, which was a really good shot, but I mean that would have been a wonder goal rather than really a great chance was made. And up the top for Motherwell, Maswinishi had a good chance. I thought the just one that I was talking about earlier for the offside that I couldn't see. It was really weird. He didn't really celebrate much, and the fans didn't celebrate much. I don't know if they thought it was offside, but then when you see it, he's extremely unlucky to be offside.
Yeah. I don't know, he's a bit of an odd fish, isn't he? Like he doesn't really celebrate goals that much. Like a sort of little moody Marco Negri type. But yeah, he took the goal well. The obviously didn't count, but yeah, it didn't look offside to me, and it's one of those that to me it didn't look offside at all. When you saw it the first time. But yeah, I think it was, or was someone else coming back.
He was just, his foot was offside coming back forward. So it was Hibs are really lucky because Boyle is snoozing on the ball. We've got a great opportunity to counter attack, and he gets his pocket picked. And Boyle was pretty poor again, and that got played through. Hibs, the best player on the park for me was Rocky Bashiri. I thought he was superb in marshalling Maswinishi. And Maswinishi only had really one chance when he ran through and goal in the second half. And Salinger sort of shut him down early, but I thought Bashiri was good on the ball, good with recovery runs, good in the air. He just had a really, really good performance, which is good because he's not been imperious in recent weeks. He's had a couple of games where I thought he could have done a bit better. So as a huge fan, one of the presidents of the Rocky Bashiri fan club, I was really pleased to see him get back to that. I mean, I don't know if there's anything else you want to ask me. This game was crap, man. It was so boring.
It does seem like, and I suppose this is just something that there was a couple of things about. One, like Motherwell, clearly now teams are, if they weren't before, I don't think enough teams have been until recently adapting to playing against Motherwell.
Giving them the respect they deserve.
Yeah. Like weirdly, one of the first teams I saw do it really was Rangers at Ibrox. Like we properly defended against Motherwell in the game we beat them 1-0. So teams need to, you can't play the way that you want to play against Motherwell because you will come up against some serious issues, I think. But yeah, the other thing is just it's more of a general point about Scotland, and so Grant Hanley also was like the sort of star of the show for the last fixture.
Oh, yeah.
He got asked getting pelters out into the press after it. Obviously didn't play him in this game, so Hanley's out the Hibs team, Sutter's out the Rangers team. I don't know if he's going to get back in. I don't know if you think Hanley's going to get back in the Hibs team anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, that's him being on the bench the last 2, maybe 3 games, not had any minutes. And like I said, and it's maybe even had an effect. Because I mean, Hibs have had 2 clean sheets on the bounce since Hanley got back on the bench, and it's like with that, Rocky Bashiri's performances have instantly went up.
I just always thought they don't sit playing together. No. I thought that before they,
because they both should be playing in the middle of the back 3. I think Bashiri's not great when he gets dragged wide. I think he gets too sucked into the ball. He's an aggressive defender, so he wants to. He's proactive. He wants to actually stop things happening. So when he goes wide, he's rash. And then, and in the wide positions, you're normally coming up against a quicker player. You've not got anyone around you maybe supporting you. If you've been dragged out there, it's probably because the other player's not there, who's meant to be. So then you get exposed. I mean, a good example would be Kilmarnock on the opening day of the season, where Dakar's done it to create that equalising goal, and that when Bashiri gets pulled out wide there. So you probably would prefer to not have him at right centre back for those types of reasons. Hanley, again, because he lacks the pace. Again, we don't want Hanley out in the wide areas. So it's the two guys that definitely were at their best by a mile in the middle of a back three, specifically, not even in a two, middle of back three, so you don't want that. And right now, Warren O'Hara at Hibs has been Hibs' best defender this season, quite easily. He's been the most consistent player out there. He's been captain quite a lot of times in there, so like he's not coming out of the team. And now that Obita's back, well, Iredale lost his place because he was poor against Livingston last week, and obviously Obita and Nicky Cadden, they sort of feel like they can double up into because Hibs lack so much pace and nobody dribble because he's fallen out with Euan again after the derby. So we just decide to not use. I'm not saying you just play him every week, but just not using the only player who can dribble or has pace and just sacrifice him totally for your team. I always find that insane. And if you don't like him enough, you should have signed someone that, because teams have to have these players to function. You know, you have to have somebody who's quick and somebody who can dribble. So you obviously went with that with Obita and Nicky Cadden to try and create like a double up, and obviously they were hoping maybe hoping about going up against Sparrow in that role. But yeah, so I maybe don't see Hanley getting back in, which is again is worrying going into and maybe where the people that did argue about Craig Halkett maybe should have got a call up in the squad, because someone needs to be playing somewhere.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. So that's a bit of a concern for because I can't see Clark changing that. I mean, I suppose he could play. He could go Hen. I don't know if Jack Hendry's playing in Saudi. Who knows? I don't want to know. But and then I think McKenna's doing well, apparently in Croatia. So yeah, I imagine McKenna will play. But yeah, just an interesting little subplot. And then who knows? Maybe both of them will get back. I can't see Suter playing anytime soon. So
just to call it Paul McGinn and win the World Cup. Exactly. It seems because it's impossible to score and to Paul McGinn playing centre half now. But Euan, 90 minutes, it's the same length as a football match, but we were talking about 6 of them, so isn't that bad? I don't think it's bad.
It's not too bad. It's not too
50
bad.
minutes a game. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful week going forward. And thanks everyone for your continued support and for listening to us. You've all heard, I'm sure, NewsQuest and the Terrace and the Herald. We've all got together and we're making a jamboree of new ways of listening to this podcast and reading lots of articles from Fowler, Liam Bryce and many other contributors over time on the website terrace.scot. We have a new app out there on the Play Store. Please don't be shy to use it. And you'll be able to, for a small monthly fee, you'll be able to access now. If you thought there was lots of content before through the Patreon, through this app and through this website, I mean, you can lose days on there. So if you are like us, Scottish football dweebs, just get the app, man. You'll not regret it.
Obviously, this podcast won't be 90 minutes once our new overlords actually listen to it and edit it. It will probably be like 45 minutes.
Yeah. I have no idea what I'm allowed to say anymore. I have no idea what I'm allowed to say anymore. Actually, I didn't check. I'll just wait for someone to tell me. And if they put out there, I'll blame them. So nothing is ever my fault, is what I'll say. I'm not a professional. You might be a professional podcaster, Euan, but I am certainly not. I am not That's the thing. I'm not part of the football media landscape like some of the people on this podcast. I am just a fat, middle-aged, bald Scottish football fan who gets to talk on occasion. But Euan, thanks very much. Have a lovely evening, and thanks very much for listening. Cheers.